How's it going, guys? Topic for today's video: how to be a real environmentalist. A real one, right? So I think that there's I think say if you do a little bit of recycling, or you move or you drive like a more kind of like gas efficient car or like a hybrid car, I think those are good steps in terms of being kind of like an environmentalist. But I think there's other lifestyle choices that we can make that will make a much bigger impact in terms of like looking at our footprint on the environment. So first and foremost, I think the most important thing that you can do in terms of reducing greenhouse gas emissions and water used and like livestock and all that kind of stuff is adopting a plant-based diet. So this is huge. There's different studies that basically talk about, in terms of like the percentage of greenhouse gas emissions coming from different sectors in the world. And basically, livestock and basically, in the meat and dairy industry and all that kind of stuff, it typically ranges, I think it's from around 20 to 50%. So there's not like one specific number. There's a couple numbers out there. But I think it's such an important thing to look at in your life. If you really want to be someone who's an environmentalist, is that you really want to look at how you eat, because how you eat makes a tremendous impact basically on the world, and how we're using certain pieces of land, how much water is used, how much gas emissions there are. It's definitely so important. So I would highly recommend that you check out a documentary called Cowspiracy, because this basically it's an hour and a half long documentary talking about this specific topic, about how diet really kind of influences and how it can basically be very destructive to the world as well. Something else that I talk about a lot on my channel is minimalism. So I originally kind of got into minimalism when I started traveling, and I just wanted to carry everything that I had on my bike. Or everything that I own, I wanted to be able to carry it on my bike with me wherever I went in the world. So I really had to kind of like cut down on all my on everything that I owned, but I also just couldn't be going out and buying stuff as well. So I've really kind of like focused my life around the possessions that I own that really add value to my life. So I think a really good thing is, instead of like going out and buying new stuff just for the sake of like buying new stuff, is to really decide for yourself, is this thing that I have in my life, is that going to really add enough value for me to actually go and buy it? Do I really need this? Is this really going to add value to my life? And since I've really kind of been practicing minimalism, it's kind of been more unconscious. It's not really been a conscious thing. But, in terms of like how much stuff I own and how much stuff I buy, really all the stuff that I buy now is typically just food, like for the most part. Like I do buy some gadgets here and there, and I might buy like, something new for my bicycle. But for the most part, like if I compare myself to other people in the world, I consume very little. And I think consuming very little in terms of material goods, I think that's a very good place to start if you want to really kind of be an environmentalist. So there's lots of resources. I have lots of videos talking about minimalism, so you can definitely check those out. Something else that I think is really important is basically how you commute. How do you transport yourself in the world, right? So I've been riding my bike primarily for like the last 4 years. So I've cycle toured through, Southeast Asia a few times, through Australia. And what I think is really important is that I've done basically probably at least 99% of my commuting in terms of like getting to and from work, going to the grocery store, going out to meet up with friends, just getting myself to different places, is that I'm always riding my bike. And that's something that I just really enjoy riding my bike, just because it's a fun thing to do. But it's also something that's obviously very environmentally friendly. So I'm not using gasoline. I'm not using, a lot of oil. Like obviously there's a little bit of oil for like my chain and stuff. But if you compare that to a car, it's just leaps and bounds different in terms of its environmental impact. Not only when you think about the actual amount of energy and materials that actually goes into building a car compared to a bicycle, like it's just miles apart, right? And I can understand that in certain climates, like I live here in Canada, that, riding my bike all year round is not necessarily the most enjoyable thing, but I have ridden most days when it's gotten down to like minus 25, minus 30 degrees Celsius, which is, it's not fun to ride in, but I also don't want to buy a car. So it's just like one of those things that I'll do. So I mean, if you live in a colder climate, think about moving to a place that might be a little bit warmer, that might be conducive to riding your bike all year round if you kind of want to be a little bit more of an environmentalist. So there's obviously some other things that you can do. You can use mass transportation. You can maybe move to a hybrid car or to an electric car. If you don't want to ride a bike, something else that I've noticed has become really popular is that people buy these little kind of like electric motorized scooters. So that's also an option as well. You can actually get little motors that you can put on your bike, little electric motors and stuff that can kind of help you. So that's something else that you can look at as well. There's lots of green options, and with the internet these days, you can just find so much cool stuff. Now, the last thing that I really want to talk about quickly, because it's something that I've become very aware and conscious of, is basically using natural gas as a source of energy. So natural gas is basically extracted from the earth through a process called hydraulic fracturing. Now, it's something that has become incredibly popular in the United States over like the last 10 to 30 years or so. So basically extracting natural gas or methane or whatever, I don't know the exact terms, from the earth using hydraulic fracturing is just got to be, it's so destructive to the planet. In terms of contaminating, well water, as well as just all the ridiculous number of chemicals that they actually pump into the ground, and all the water that is used for the actual fracturing process is just freaking astronomical. So highly recommend that you check out those documentaries. It's something that I'm very conscious of. So when I'm building the tiny house with high carb Hannah, like there's going to be no natural gas at all in the house. So we're going to be, I'm going to have to use electric for basically everything, because you can actually harvest solar energy in a sustainable way, whereas like harvesting natural gas is just not, it's not sustainable. But the reason why I don't think that this is a very popular subject, or something that we just don't know a lot about, is because the energy sector in the United States, in terms of really kind of like solidifying an energy source, is something that is very, 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 very valuable and profitable in the United States. So I don't think we're going to be hearing a lot of that. But in terms of the actual environmental impact of natural gas extraction from the earth, I think it's probably just as destructive as, the meat and dairy industry. I personally believe that. So it's something that I'm very passionate about. So just to recap, 4 main things is obviously adopting a plant-based diet, consuming less through the idea of minimalism, trying to transport yourself on your bicycle as much as possible. You can use trailers and all that kind of stuff to transport food and stuff, or moving to like a hybrid car, using more mass transportation. And the 4th thing is moving away from natural gas as a source of energy. Awesome. If you have any questions or comments, definitely leave them in the box below. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Have a great day. Talk to you soon. Peace out.